Okay, this is our weekly Maamar class. We're starting a new Maamar, a new discourse from the Rebbe, entitled Vayidaber Elokim. And God spoke. Tafshin Chof Tes, 5729. That means 1969. Chag HaShavuos, Yom Beis de Chag HaShavuos, second day of the Yom Tov of Shavuos. It's a Shavuos Maamar. It's a Maamar about Shavuos. And what do we celebrate? What do we commemorate? What do we relive on Shavuos? Matan Torah. Okay, so that's what it's about. It's about the revelation at Sinai. Vayidaber Elokim es kol ha'dvarim ha'elu layar. And God spoke all of these things, saying, right, that's the verse from Parshas Yisro, where Matan Torah is described. That's the intro to the Ten Commandments, the Decalogue. Yeah. V'yadua hadiok b'ma shekosav layar. And it is known that which is learned out. Learned out is not proper English, but that's how we say it. Yeshiva shesprach, yeah. That's the diuk, that's what's learned out from the fact that it says layar, meaning God spoke all these words speaking. He said, saying, he spoke, speaking, whatever. So it sounds like a redundancy. So there's a diuk. And the footnote, by the way, ha'ara number 2, says that this is from Torah, which means a sefer of the Alter Rebbe, meaning this is an observation that goes back to the Chassidus of the Balatanya. Okay, the Meyachashe Kol Yisrael and Neshamas Shebechol Adoros, that since all Jews, even all Jews of all generations, the souls of all generations, Hoyu b'Maamar Har Sinai, were present at the revelation at Sinai. V'shamu es hadibris makadosh baruch hu ba'atzmei, and personally heard the Ten Commandments from Hashem. Mahu pirush layar. What does it mean? Layar, Hashem spoke, speaking. Layar la'achedim, to speak it to others. That's a question. Why would you have to tell it to anyone else when everyone was there? You know, the joke that they say, oh, you had to have been there. Everyone was there. And the nekuda, the point, salient point, which explains this, that this actually is bringing out the whole novelty of Matan Torah. Seemingly, even before the revelation at Sinai, they learned Torah. They learned all of the Torah. Brackets kemuven gam shekayim Avram Avinu es kol haTorah kula ad shelei nitna, as is understood from the fact that Avraham Avinu did the whole Torah before it was even given. Shebichdei lekayim es haTorah tzarich lilmod isa. In order to be Mekayim, in order to do it, you have to have learned it. Bevadai shavram limud es kol haTorah kula liYitzchak b'nei v'Yitzchak limda liYankiv avanav. And certainly Avram taught the whole Torah to Yitzchak, his son, and Yitzchak taught it to his sons. Uma'al chidush de Matan Torah. And we know that there were yeshivas in Mitzrayim. Okay, it was Shevet Levi mostly, but we know that there was Torah learning. We know Yankov Avinu, before he went to Mitzrayim, he sent Yehuda to make a yeshiva. We know that way back in times of Yankov Avinu, before he went to Beis Lavan, he went to yeshiva, the yeshiva of Shem and Eva. So Torah was around before Matan Torah. So what's the chiddush of Matan Torah? Mavar kosov. So that's what the verse is bringing out. Shachiddush de Vayidaber Elokim es kol ha'dvarim ha'elu b'Matan Torah. What is the point of it saying, and God spoke? Sha'yidei zeh nitin hakoyach l'kol echad v'echad miYisrael shebechol hadoros. It empowered every single Jew for all time. Shelimud haTorah shalai yeh ba'ofen de layar, that his Torah study, or her Torah study, will have the power of layar. So what does it mean? Vayidaber Elokim es kol ha'dvarim ha'elu layar. Layar means that Hashem gave us the power when Torah was revealed, and this hadn't happened before Matan Torah, meaning we had Torah before, people were learning Torah before Matan Torah, but they didn't have the power yet of learning Torah in a manner of Layar. Now, you're going to say, what does that mean? I don't know yet. He hasn't said. Okay. Shnei pirushim b'zeh. There's actually two explanations of what that means. Okay, two explanations of what the Chiddush was. What happened for the first time? What changed permanently and forever at that moment? Two things. Well, there's two explanations. Sha'al yidei limud ha'Torah shalayhu goyrim shakadosh baruch hu yemer diburim ele. Layar can mean that when you learn Torah, you have now been empowered with leverage that your Torah learning causes Hashem to learn that same Torah. Dechol hakoyre v'shena, that anyone who learns, HaKadosh Baruch Hu koyre v'shena kenegdoi, Hashem learns opposite you. Meaning you trigger that Hashem, as it were, studies along with you. So that power didn't exist before. At the giving of the Torah, that power was given to all of us. And that's what Layar means. That when you learn Torah, you learn it in a way of Layar, of making Hashem speak the same words that you are speaking. Val piza pirush Layar lacherim hu. Sha'adam halayimid Torah oimel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And according to that, when we say Layar, it means Layar lacherim, speak it to others. And we already said it can't mean to other Jews, because all the Jews were there, at least spiritually. So the others here means to Hashem, that when you're learning, you're actually speaking not only to Hashem, but along with Hashem, in a way that is eliciting speech from Hashem, kiviyachol, so to speak.
What's the significance of that?
I don't know. I'm just reporting the facts. What's the significance? I don't know. I mean, it's cool. I mean, do you think it's cool if a human being says, you know, I can make Hashem learn something right now. I can make Hashem say certain words of Torah right now. You can make Hashem do anything. Yeah, he empowered me to do that. I can open up a sefer, and I can start learning, and I can learn Hilchos Shabbos and start saying a halacha from Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, and the Infinite One will start saying those same words with me. It's pretty cool.
So why is it in plural, lacherim?
That's a good question. I don't know. Okay, and he says the kiviyachol, that important word, as it were, after a fashion, so to speak, because we're speaking about Hashem, so it can't be so literal. Shiyachzer al hadiburim shalai, that Hashem actually repeats your words. Okay. Va'id, and another way of understanding this word Layar. Shalimad ha'Torah shala adam yeh ba'eifin de Layar. That, or maybe that's just repeating what we're describing. That what does it mean that you're learning Torah is in a manner of Layar? Lachzer hadvarim shakadosh baruch hu eimer. It means to repeat the words that Hashem is saying. That my tongue sort of answers your, Hashem's, words. The words of Torah that a person is saying are Hashem's words. And my tongue, meaning the person's tongue, is sort of just echoing it, like a person who in a call and response. Like a call and response chant. So Hashem says the words of Torah that we're saying, and then sort of inversely, we are echoing the words that he said. So Layar here is talking about this dynamic relationship, how we're sort of volleying the words of Torah back and forth between each other. And I believe that's just, the Rebbe said there are two explanations of Layar. I think that's just one explanation. I think that's all one explanation. Because now it says, Va'id pirish b'dibur goymer Layar. And here's another explanation of these words. And the Rebbe said there are two pirushim. So I think the first one, there are two parts of the first explanation. That we cause Hashem to repeat after us, but after all, we're repeating after him. Okay.
Is that like a hint to the physical and spiritual world? that mirrors each other?
I'm not sure. I mean, let's take it on the most simple level that it's talking about a dynamic relationship between the Jew and Hashem that is going on whenever we learn. Okay. And here's another explanation of these words. Vayidaber Elokim es kol hadvarim ho'ele. When it says Hashem spoke all of these words, aseres hadibros shehem klalos kol haTorah, it's talking about the Ten Commandments, which are the entirety of the Torah. It's a concept that confuses a lot of people because, you tell people who don't really have any Jewish background about 613 mitzvahs, and they're like, 613? I thought there's 10 commandments. 613 commandments, 10 commandments. So talk it. What's up with that? And we understand that the 10 commandments are the totality of the 613. In fact, it's been pointed out that the letters of the 10 commandments there are 620 letters, which are the 613 biblical commandments plus the 7 rabbinic commandments. So the 10 commandments are more like 10 categories under which all 613 commandments can be filed. So the 10 commandments represent the totality of the Torah, maybe call it in shorthand. Hu Layar, and that is in a manner of Layar, of saying. What does that mean? Shaseres hadibros, Torah shelamayla ma'olam, that the 10 commandments, which is the Torah, and Torah is higher than the world. We all know Torah is higher than the world. What does it mean Torah is higher than the world? Which existed first? Right. So it's not that Hashem had a world and he said, this world needs some rules. Oh, I'll make up a Torah to make rules for that world that already exists. No. Torah is Hashem's wisdom. And he had it already in concept form, in abstract form. And he said, I would like to see these rules lived out. Let's create a world. Okay, so Torah is higher than the world, and that's why even now Torah has power over the world, and that's why Psak Din of Halacha, a ruling of a Rav, actually affects reality. So that these 10 commandments, which are Torah, Yimshechu ba'asara Maamar shebehem ho'elam, should be drawn down into the 10 utterances from which the world was created. Now I'm going to stop a second, because our friends who are watching online right now, they may not be, in fact, there are people even here in this room right now, may not be also double dipping and coming to the Monday class and learning Sha'ar Yichud Ve'emunah. So I'm going to ask you to have rachmanis, to have some compassion, and not show off too much everything you know about Asara Maimaris from what we're learning on Monday in Tanya with Sha'ar Yichud Ve'emunah, because we've been learning a lot about that concept. But I'm going to ask you that you should not make assumptions that everybody knows that material. So we are going to speak as if nobody ever heard about this concept before. Asara Maimaris means the 10 utterances. Which 10 utterances? If you look in the Genesis account of creation, it says, Vayidaber Elokim, and God spoke and said, let there be this, let there be that, 10 times. Those are the 10 utterances. Hashem created the world through what? Speech. He continues to create the world through what? Speech. Hashem speaks the world into being. That is the 10 utterances. There's also something called Aseres hadibros, the 10 commandments. It's funny because Aseres hadibros doesn't really mean 10 commandments. It's just such an iconic expression that we translate it that way. It really means the 10 statements. The 10 statements. So Aseres hadibros, but we'll translate it as 10 commandments because it's just too awkward for us not to. So Aseres hadibros is the 10 commandments. Asara Maimaros are the 10 utterances. So what's the difference? Well, they're both 10, and they're both speech. But how would we distinguish which 10 is which? What are the two categories that we could give, to what labels could we give them to remind which 10 speaky things are which? Because they're both 10 speaky things.
Aseres hadibros are for us to do.
Okay, but that's too many words. Give me one word. What? Creation? Yeah, creation is one word. Yeah, so which one is creation? 10 utterances. A Sodom Maimodis is creation, okay? And Sesa Dibros,
Man.
I would make it really simple.
10 commandments.
Torah and creation, or world. I would say Torah and world. Yeah, Torah and world. Sesa Dibros is Torah, the 10 speaky things of Torah. Sodom Maimodis are the 10 speaky things of the world. Okay? So
The creative energy that creates the world.
a Sodom Maimodis are the creative energy that creates the world. A Sesa Dibros are the ways in which the Torah was conveyed to us. So, two categories, Torah and world. And as we mentioned before, which one comes before which? Torah comes before world. Okay?
So Sesa
So Sesa Dibros
Dibros existed before.
existed before the world. It was revealed. That's why we call it a revelation. The Torah was revealed, right? So Torah existed, Sesa Dibros existed before they were revealed. In fact, before the world was created. And then what happened? They were drawn down into the world, which is another way of saying that the Sesa Dibros of Torah were drawn down into the Sodom Maimodis of world. So that's what he says here. Let's back up. That Layar means Sesa Dibros, Torah shelamayla ma'olam, the 10 commandments, which is Torah, which is higher than world. Yumshecho b'Sodom Maimodis shebahem nivra ha'olam, should be drawn down into the 10 utterances, which is world.
I don't understand.
You do. That which is higher than world, that which is higher than world,
I understand that part. I don't understand.
was drawn down into world.
Right. But when I think of 10 utterances, I don't think of world. I think of creative energy that creates.
Yeah, but what kind of creative energies? Creative energies that are concerned with the world, making a world. Torah doesn't have to have a world. Torah can exist and did exist for eternity without a world. Sodom Maimodis is all about a world. Sesa Dibros doesn't need a world. So we're taking that which is transcendent, that which exists independent of a world, Torah, and drawing it down into the world
Through the 10 utterances?
through the 10 commandments, the Sesa Dibros.
That is Torah. That Sesa Dibros is Torah.
Right, but what happened when Hashem spoke the Sesa Dibros is that these 10 ideas became part of the world.
Through the physical revelation of those ideas.
The revelation in physicality, the revelation in world, yes. Okay, so that which is higher than world became drawn down into world. Okay. And this is the exciting part. And a similar thing can be said about our Torah study. Not just what happened at Sinai in the year 2448, but what happens when we learn Torah right now in 5784. That when we learn Torah, it is also in a manner of Vayidaber Layar. Shimedibur ha-Torah shalai naisa amira. That from your dibur, when you say words of Torah, it turns into an amira, a word of creating the world. Hamshachas hashpa lamata. You're drawing down energy downward below. So similar to what happened at Matan Torah, that the Torah that's higher than world was drawn down into world, same thing happens when you learn Torah. You're taking energy which is inherently loftier than the world, and your Torah learning is bringing that energy into the world. So we have two explanations of what this extra word Layar means. One explanation is that it means what? That when we learn Torah, what happens? Right, the back and forth, the call and response, the echoing. Okay.
But why is it not the same? When you're drawing it down, it's not
Okay.
necessarily an echo.
Okay, everything's always okay, just so that's one explanation, right? Okay. Second explanation of the word Layar is that it's referring to what?
Creative energy that happens when you learn.
The creative energy that is higher than the world,
This creative
that's getting drawn down into the world through our learning. Yeah.
Is that like making the dira b'tachtonim?
Yeah, dira b'tachtonim, yeah, into the world, yeah, okay.
So what were
Vitz-
they accessing before? You said that they were learning Torah before.
Yeah, but it wasn't having that effect. They were learning Torah before, but it wasn't. So before Matan Torah, they were learning Torah, and it wasn't having that effect.
What was the point of it?
The obvious, the mitzvahs that they did not affect the world.
Didn't affect the world.
Did not affect the world.
So Matan Torah was the
Beginning of a totally new paradigm, yeah.
where we could draw Hashem's creative energy.
Correct, into the world.
Torah learning.
Through Torah
It was
learning, yeah.
more intellectual or just a
More
way of
spiritual,
thinking?
more spiritual. It was spiritual.
It stayed up there.
It stayed up there, yeah, yeah. Okay, now here's a classic Rebbe question. V'tzarich lahavin, and we have to understand, hakasher v'hashayches dechol inyanim anal b'leimor. What's the connection, the relationship between all these different explanations of that word leimor? There's a premise behind the Rebbe's question, which is an axiom, and it is an axiom that runs through all of the Rebbe's Torah, and that is achdus, unity, oneness. The premise is that it's impossible that we would just randomly have two explanations of this word and that they wouldn't have a relationship. The Rebbe insists that it's so simple and obvious that Rebbe doesn't even defend why that's an assumption. Like I said, it's an axiom. The Rebbe asks, okay, so obviously there's a relationship between those two explanations. Let's go find it. So do you understand the treasure hunt that we're on now?
Can you explain that again with Layar and what are we looking at again?
The two explanations?
Yeah.
Okay, one explanation of Layar, because Layar is a seemingly redundant word. So one explanation is Layar means that when you learn Torah, there's a second speaking that's going on, which is you're causing Hashem to speak, which is also, there's another layer of that, which is Hashem caused you to speak because you're saying his words. And then he says your words. So that's the Layar, is that there's that volleying back and forth, that dynamic relationship. So that's one explanation. Second explanation is Layar means that when you're learning Torah, it's causing these 10 concepts of Torah to become revealed in the world, in the physical world. So then the Rebbe asks, okay, great. What is the relationship between those two things? How are they ultimately saying the same thing?
They're both causing having.
I have no idea. I'm not going to guess.
But wasn't it already revealed?
What was already revealed?
Everything that you're learning was already revealed.
Yeah, but you're still practicing it. You could say lighting candles was revealed.
I'm not sure what your question is.
When you learn it, it's causing it to be revealed in this world. But
Here and now, that's the nature of, you're saying it was already revealed. The nature of the world is time and space, and time and space is divisible. So the Torah that you're learning here and now was never learned before here and now.
By you.
By you. You're adding another specific dimension to it, yeah. Olam Shana v'Nefesh, by the way, that's from Sefer Yetzirah. Dimension of Olam is space, Shana is time, Nefesh is the person. Yeah, so that's right. It was never learned at this time, in this place, by you. So that's a very specific type of hamshacha, of drawing down that energy into the world. Okay, so the Rebbe asks, what is the underlying concept?
It seems to me that both of those explanations.
I have no idea. Let's not even think that way. No, I'm saying to you, we're not going to even wonder what the relationship is. Because, no, we're not. No, I didn't ask the question. This is, see, here's a trick. This is a trick. When a question is asked in a Maamar, it's not a real question.
It's an introduction.
It's an introduction.
We're building up.
We're building. So we're not going to even try to think. So here it is. You know that I think very highly of everybody here as far as like the intellectual level, which is why I keep things going very, very quickly. And okay, so here's what I believe everyone here is smart. I don't think people who are not into deep stuff stay at this class. Okay, and I know you need to use your brain. So here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to tell anyone don't use your brain. I just want you to trust me when I tell you how to use your brain. Do not attempt to use your brain to answer a question in a mimer. Use your brain to really savor the question and say, wow, that question is so powerful. Even if I never get an answer, that was enjoyable just even asking that question. So we never really try to figure out the answer because the Rebbe is going to answer or not. By the way, has that happened in any mimer that we learned so far where the Rebbe doesn't end up answering a question that was asked earlier in the mimer? Sometimes that happens. The questions aren't real questions. Like you said, they're introductions. So right now, there's no assignment here to answer this question. The assignment is to understand the question without the need to find an answer on your own. I'll put it like this. It's an appetizer. You know what an appetizer does?
That's the palate.
That's right, because an appetizer is supposed to make you hungry. It's funny. It's eating that makes you hungrier. Isn't it funny? An appetizer is supposed to give you an appetite. Now, a snack is supposed to tide you over. It's supposed to make you not need to eat anymore. An appetizer is supposed to make you like, now I'm interested in more.
Right.
So the questions in the mimer are an appetizer. It's supposed to make you hungry. It's not supposed to lead to satiation. It's not supposed to lead to an answer. You're supposed to say, I have no idea. Oh my gosh, there's no answer to this. And then probably within a few lines there will be an answer. But the point is we're experiencing the wonder. We're experiencing the exploration, the adventure. Okay. So I have no idea what the connection is between these two concepts, but the Rebbe insists that there must be one. And I would guess, I mean, I have learned the mimer before, so I can't really sincerely, honestly pretend that I don't know, but to the best of my ability to pretend to learn this in a fresh way with fresh eyes, I'll say like this. I know not every question in a mimer gets answered, but I'm going to assume this one will. First of all, because it was really the only question that we were left with in the first chapter. That was the end of the first chapter. But also because it seems like that's the premise of the mimer. Sometimes questions are incidental and they're really just stepping stones. This seems to be like the premise of the mimer. So let's just like summarize chapter 1 like this and say like this. Okay. We're trying to understand two aspects of Matan Torah. One of them describes our relationship with Hashem when we learn Torah. The other one describes our relationship with the world when we learn Torah. That's how I'm saying it. That every time we learn, there's something happening between us and Hashem, that back and forth. Also, every time we learn, there's something happening new in the world where the Torah is coming into the world in a more revealed way. Okay, those are two different things, but apparently they're one and the same. How are they one and the same? I don't know. I'm curious. I'm very curious. Okay. Chapter 2. Let's do it. Base. V'hinei b'ha-maimer shel Admor Maharash. There is a mimer of the Rebbe Maharash that is the fourth Chabad Rebbe. His name was Rav Shmuel. That's what the shin in Maharash is. The name of his mimer was the same name as this mimer. What's the name of this mimer? Vayidaber Elokim. So he also said the mimer. By the way, the Rebbeim would often say the same mimer as their predecessors, and you'll find a mimer that was said by multiple generations of Rebbes.
Did they announce it before this is the name?
You would know the name from the first line. There was no like announcement, like. You're saying, like, was there like a program? You sit in your seat and there's like a program, first act, like that? No, the Dibra Maskal literally means the opening words. So it's like, you go to the concert and you hear the first note and all the big fans start screaming because they immediately know what the song is. Okay, so that's a Dibra Maskal. So the Rebbe Maharash said a mimer with the same opening words. And he said it 100 years ago. Now, 100 years ago from when? When was this mimer said?
69.
Yeah, so this mimer from the Rebbe Maharash was when? 1869. Very good. So basically, this is like the 100th anniversary commemorative Maamar, basically. You can understand, obviously, the significance, or that at least there is a significance of the fact that there's a Maamar that was said 100 years earlier, and that Rebbe is sort of bringing it back and revisiting it and adding to it.
He needs to do that.
Yes, so how many Maimonim of the Rebbe have you learned? 4 or 5? And you've caught on already. You're saying he likes to do that. Okay. So that is probably, I don't want to put out a number, but yeah, it's almost every Maamar is a study of the previous generations of Chassidus Chabad, presenting what the points were, the evolution of those points, and then adding a new dimension. And that is the Rebbe's style, correct. Which is also, by the way, the 7th generation. The 7th is Malchus. Malchus is the recipient from the previous Spheros. So it's very much about being that, Malchus is also femininity. It's like the womb that receives and then develops. So that's very much the Rebbe's style, is receiving all of the Chassidus from the previous Rebbeim and then developing it and delivering it. Okay.
So what could we do with it to bring it to the age?
We need to live it. We need to learn it the way we're learning it and to live it. Okay, so 100 years before, there was a Maamar from the Rebbe Maharash with the same title. La'achrei adiak shlachera tevis leimer hu miyutar. That he brings out this idea after he says that the word leimer is apparently redundant. Maybe mashakosov b'yalkut. Then he brings a yalkut. Yalkut is medrashim, yalkut shmeini. Kishahoya Kadosh Baruch Hu medaber, when Hashem would speak, hoya kol echad mi Yisrael omer, imi hadibur medaber. Hashem is speaking to me. Shenemar anechi avaya lekecha, like it says, I am the Lord, your God, singular, lashon yachid, singular. So Hashem said, not Elokechem, but Elokecha. So everybody heard that and said, oh, Hashem's speaking to me. Hashem's speaking to me. Mavar, that's what the Yalkut Shmeini says. Mavar dezeu mat the Isa b'Medrash, and the Rebbe Maharash explains that that's similar to what it brings in the Medrash Shmeis Rabbah, ala posach hanecha v'alekecha, on the verse, I am the Lord your God, shahakel sheshamu b'seres adibros hoya lefi koicha shel kol echad, that the word that they heard in the 10 Commandments was according to the capacity of every individual. Habachem lefi koichan, v'zakenim lefi koichan, v'ketanim lefi koichan. The young man according to their ability, and the old man according to their ability, and the little kids according to their ability. V'yesh leimer, so we could possibly say, D'mahatimim al zeh shemevi gam maimer medrash. Why did the Rebbe Maharash bring that medrash? Meaning he already had the Yalkut Shmeini that says everyone was saying Hashem is speaking to me individually. But then the Rebbe Maharash brings also the Shmeis Rabbah, the Medrash Rabbah, that says that Torah was delivered in an individualized form to the capacity of each individual. So what's the reason? Hu lefi sha'ideza movin, that this helps us to understand sha'inyan de imi hadiber medaber lekol echad v'echad b'fnei atzmei. This concept that the Yalkut Shmeini describes, how everyone felt that Hashem was speaking to them individually. Hu loirak b'negea lahanishma. It wasn't just subjective from the perspective of the listener. Elagab b'negea lahaguf. It also was objective. It was what we call here according to the body, the guf, the body. The difference between the young men, the old men, the children, whom it's the guf, is a physical difference. It's very interesting. There's not a spiritual difference. Yeah, but chanoich l'nar al pi darkoi means that the child hasn't grown yet. but his soul doesn't grow. His soul is eternal. You know, people look at babies and say, oh, he has an old soul. All babies have old souls. All souls are old.
But aren't there levels of soul, Tzaddik, Rasha, Beinoni?
Yeah, there are levels of souls, but you know, we learn about that elsewhere in Chassidus, but that's not what it says. It doesn't say that Tzaddikim had this and the Beinim had that. It says the old guys, the young guys, the little kids. Those are divisions that are not spiritual divisions. Those are physical divisions. So the Rebbe is bringing out a point here that you would not have understood on your own learning the Rebbe Maharash's Maamar, but the Rebbe is teaching us the Rebbe Maharash's Maamar and saying, when the Rebbe Maharash has already a good Yalkut Shmeini to bring out the idea that Torah was spoken to every individual, why does he then add on to it with that Medrash Rabbah? The Rebbe says because it's bringing out this concept that when the Yalkut Shmeini says everyone felt they were being spoken to individually, what was that individualization? Well, look what the Medrash Rabbah says. It was individualized according to their physical capacity.
In the delivery or the receiving?
That's a good question. How was it attenuated? I don't know. But the point is that there was something about the physical capacity that was a determinant in regards to the revelation that they experienced at Matan Torah.
Part of revelation.
As opposed to a spiritual thing, like we said, like that the people who are on a higher spiritual level got this level of revelation, and those who are on a lower level got less, more diminished spiritual revelation. What we're saying is, it was really almost like you're handing out sandwiches, and it's like you don't give a little kid the big sandwich; he's not going to finish it. So you give him you cut it up small, and you give him a small sandwich.
Hashem's speech, how do you measure that physically? It's not about how much.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what that means, but obviously it means that when the soul in a body is experiencing divine revelation, so there are ways of making it more or less overwhelming for the body. And what we're saying is that Hashem did package, as it were, that revelation for each individual's body.
I thought all the bodies got overwhelmed.
Well, let's find out, because it's a great question. It doesn't mention that here. Okay, next paragraph. Umavar b'hamaimer hatam al zeh shahadiber deseres adibers haya ba'ofen de'imi adiber medaber. In the Rebbe Maharash's Maamar, so the Rebbe is continuing to teach us the Rebbe Maharash's 100-year-old Maamar, that in that Maamar it proceeds to explain the reason, the reason why the Seres HaDibros were in such a manner of being individualized. Not the message. The message was the same message. I'm saying the level of intensity. B'lashon yachid, l'chol echad v'echad b'fnei atzmei. Why was it spoken, I am the Lord your God, singular? Hagam, in brackets, Hagam shekol tzivu ha'Torah heim l'chol echad v'echad miYisrael b'chol ha'Torah nemer ani Hashem Elokechem. Even though we know everything it says in Torah is applicable to all Jews, and yet most of the time it says, I am the Lord your God, plural, Elokechem. And we know that it doesn't mean that it's not applicable to everybody. That's why they say, if you know, what is it called, the bystander effect. That if you're in public and you need help, and you say, help, 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 a bunch of, you're standing on Fifth Avenue, you're saying help, and like everyone will stand there. So you're supposed to say, you, exactly, you in the red shirt, call 911. Because otherwise, they're like, so someone's going to call 911. Right. So the whole Torah speaks Elokechem, plural, and we know it doesn't mean it in a general way, where it's everybody's job, so then it ends up being nobody's job. We know that that's not what it means, and yet here with the first of the 10 Commandments, it really says it explicitly. Elokecha, you in the red shirt. Al pimad de isa b'yalkut sham. So we're going to understand this according to that which is brought in the Yalkut Shmeini. The Bishas Matan Torah, that at the time of the revelation, Shitaf HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shmei B'chol Echad V'echad M'Yisrael. Hashem partnered his name with every single individual Jew. He partnered his name with them. He put his name on them. He co-signed. He gave his endorsement. Yes, you could put our logo on your flyer.
Is that when he chose us?
Yeah, that is when he chose us. Okay.
The physical or the spiritual?
Well, we know that already from other places in Chassidus. Yeah, okay. Dezeu mashakosov rechav Elokim rebesayim geimer Hashem bom Sinai b'kodesh. This is a pasuk, Tehillim. Who can pull it up on their phone? Samachas, Psalm 68:18. 68:18. How are they translating that? The legions or something? Rechav is a chariot, but it's talking about like legions of angels, myriads of legions of angels coming to Sinai. Who has a nice translation of that verse?
What is it?
68:18. Yeah.
God's entourage is twice 10,000.
Okay, God's entourage is twice 10,000, all right.
Thousands of angels.
Thousands of angels, okay.
Okay,
This one has it as chariot.
That one says literally chariot, yeah, okay. And what's the rest of the verse?
the Lord is among them at Sinai in holiness.
The Lord is among them at Sinai in holiness. The Kamei Shashem Bom Ba'Melochim. Just like Hashem is there with them. Who's them? The angels. Shebeshmoi shall call Malach Meshutaf. B'seifei Shmoi shall HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Every Malach has Hashem's name partnered with it. That's why angel names have that suffix Aleph Lamed, which is the Shem Kael. It's one of Hashem's names. So it's a very common angelic nomenclature, you know, like Raphael, Michael, Gavriel, Uriel, Uziel. Oh, okay, yeah. So these are angelic names, and that's Hashem's name, which is Yisrael, that is partnered with. Yisrael actually is not the name of an angel. That's us, yeah. Which is the point here. So just like that Aleph Lam, by the way, you know in Superman? Kal-El. Yeah. That all the people from Krypton have that suffix as their name as well. And that's because the two Jewish boys from Cleveland who made Superman who are putting Jewish symbolism into the story. Okay. So Kal, Aleph Lamed, Michael, Gavriel, Raphael. Kain b'matan Torah, Sinai b'kodesh, Shita v'kadosh Baruch Hu Shmei b'kol echad v'echad miYisrael. Anechi v'Elokecha. And where does that come out? When Hashem says, I'm the Lord, your singular God. Umamshech ba'Maamar. And then the Rebbe Maharash continues in his Maamar. The ayedei sheshmei shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu meshutav b'mlachim hem betelim legabi shmei yisbarach shemeshutav bohem. That through Hashem joining His name to the angels, they become batel, they become nullified to Him through that. U'kamei kain hu b'Yisrael. Similarly with the Jewish people, the ayedei sheshitav HaKadosh Baruch Hu shmei b'Yisrael, through Hashem partnering His name, combining His name with us. Heim b'bittel, they become nullified. K'mavur barucha b'hamaimer, as the Rebbe Maharash's Maamar then proceeds to explain at length what that means. But in general, this concept of being nullified, of bittel, it's not like a destructive thing, God forbid, to be nullified.
It's not being canceled.
But it's not being canceled, right? It's being included, subsumed. So it means that the source becomes so powerful that that which comes from the source no longer has a distinct, separate identity, and it just becomes one with the source. So it's a very beautiful thing and a very lofty thing. Okay. I wonder if we could go really fast to chapter 3. I think we could try to do it. Now, the name that Hashem partnered with the Jewish people is higher than the name that Hashem partnered with the angels. Hashem, Aleph Daled Nun Yud Bam. There are different Shemais, different names of Hashem. So Aleph Daled Nun Yud is one name. Tanya, and it explains in Sefer Tanya, not in the 53 chapters of Likutei Amora, but in Igeres HaTshuva, Perek Daled, Shemalachim Nikroyim B'Shem Elokim, that angels are called sometimes Elokim. Delakim va'adnai heim bechlolos inyan echad. Okay, and then the footnote for that is, look what the Torah, okay. So it's explained in Chassidus, the Shemes Elokim and Adnai are very related. They're both Malchus, they're both Tzimtzum, they're both lower level names, more
Isn't it more like din?
more din, more withholding or contraction or concealment. Gvura Avo B'Yisro Ksiv, but regarding the Jewish people, it says Ki Chelek Havaya Amai, the portion of Havaya, Yud Ke Vav Ke, the Tetragrammaton. We had the Decalogue, and now we have the Tetragrammaton. I love these old Sansino words. I call them Sansino words because that's where I learned it. I learned these words, and I learned that the Yom Tov that's coming up is called Pentecosts. You know that? Yeah, and the Sansino Shavuos is called Pentecosts. And if you know any fun Sansino words, put them in the comments below. Okay.
And don't forget to
Like, subscribe, comment, and share. And that's Layar. Layar is Lachedim. Layar Lachedim, to share. Okay. Now, the concept of the Jewish people are a portion of, or are the portion of Havaya that also existed before Matan Torah. But it wasn't so revealed. Because the concept of Hashem, the portion of Hashem, the portion of Havaya is his people, refers to the neshama. And then when the soul comes down, Haguf Mailam Master al neshama, then the body conceals that, Val Shem Havaya Shabbat, and it conceals the Shem Havaya that's in the neshama. So the body is covering the fact that the neshama is connected to Havaya.
The body is a boundary, physical boundary.
Matan Torah, however, what happened at Matan Torah? Through Hashem saying, I am Havaya, Elekecha, Nimshach Ze Begiloi, that truth of the soul became drawn down into the body. So at Matan Torah, what changed is the relationship between the Jew and that higher name, the Yud Ke Vav Ke, which is Hoya Hoya V'Yeh, was, is, and will be simultaneously the transcendent, ineffable, the essential, became revealed. Previously, it was a relationship that the soul had with Hashem. Through Matan Torah, it was also expressed in the body. Like explained in the Alter Rebbe's Likutei Torah, the Pirush HaNechi Havaya Lekecha, the meaning of HaNechi Havaya Lekecha is Shehavaya Yeh Meir, that this name, Yud Ke Vav Ke, should shine, Umizgala Bach, and be revealed in you. Kol Kach, so much, Ad Sheyeh Nikra Al Shimcha, to the extent that you will now be called by Hashem's name, or rather, I'm sorry, that Hashem will be called by your name. Such a wild concept, it's hard to read it right. Elekecha. Hashem refers to himself as, you know who I am? I'm your God, right? It's like, how do you introduce yourself? When you say that, oh, you know who I am? I'm so-and-so's brother. I'm so-and-so's spouse, right? So you refer to your identity in terms of a relationship with somebody else. That's a pretty close relationship. That's how you're identifying yourself. So Hashem's saying, you want to know who I am? I'm this guy's God. Okay. והכוח על הוויה לקחה, שגם לאחר שהנשמה מסלבשת בגוף יהיה הוויה בי בגילי ועד שיהיה נקרא על שמי, הוא מעצמוס אור אין סוף של המעלה גם מהוויה. Now that power to bring Havaya into Elokecha, remember Havaya is the higher name, Elokim is the lower name, to take the truth of the soul and put it into the body, that power comes from an even higher place, higher than Havaya. It comes from Or Ein Sof, from Atzmus Or Ein Sof. It comes from the essence of the infinite light, which is even higher than names. Havaya is the loftiest name, but it's still a name. Havaya is a revelation that's very high. But in order for that high revelation to come down low into the physical body, it requires an even higher power, which is the power of the essence of the infinite light, which is even higher than Havaya. Because it's even higher, it can bring it down even lower. That anything that's higher descends and is revealed lower. So a mediocre teacher can teach competent students who have some type of background and training already. But to explain a deep concept to complete novices, for that you need an expert. So the higher it is, the lower it can go. This is what it means. I, Havaya, am your Elokecha, that in order for Havaya to become Elokecha, it comes from Anoichi, the personal pronoun, I, without a name. I, whoever I am, without a name. Above names, Havaya, which is higher even than Havaya. Anoichi is not a name. Anoichi is a pronoun. It's like whoever I am, my essence. So the power to bring Havaya into Elokecha, to bring the Chelek Havaya Amai, that the Neshama is connected to Havaya, to make that be something that's expressed even in the Guf Gashmi, in the physical body, for that we need a power even higher than Havaya. And then, which is Atzmos Ein Sof, and it brings that down into Elokecha, which means a relationship with the body. Layar, and now we can say, this is the Rebbe's Chiddush, so the Rebbe just taught us a bunch of things from the Rebbe Maharash's Maamar. Now the Rebbe sort of ties it up and says his own take, so we can perhaps say, the cave in Shishmei Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shishitav B'Yisrael Hu Shem Havaya Shalamayla Mishem Havaya Mishem Adnai Shemashutav B'Malachim, that since the name, the divine name that Hashem combines with the Jews, which is Havaya, is higher than the name that Hashem combines with the angels, which is Adnai. And especially since we know that it's not just Havaya that Hashem combined with the Jewish people, but it was a power greater even than Havaya. It was the power of Atzmos Ein Sof that enables that combination. Therefore, what is the logical conclusion? Gam habittel di Yisrael shenais al yidei shma yisbarach hamashutav bohem. So too the bittul, the nullification that the Jewish people experience through Hashem's name being partnered with them, who bittul gadol yesma bittul malachim, is a greater bittul, is a greater nullification than what the angels experience. Meaning to say, the bittul comes about through the shittuf of the shmai, of the Shem, and since it's a higher Shem, it's Havaya, that Hashem partners with the Jewish people. And in fact, it's not even Havaya, it's even beyond that, it's Atzmos Ein Sof. So it must be that the bittul, the nullification that we experienced at Matan Torah, is greater even than what the angels experienced at Matan Torah.
It was a one-time thing. We don't need that.
And continues. It started, so let me make it very clear. It was not a one-time thing, because it was a revolution. It started a new paradigm. So yes, it happened at Matan Torah and became the new baseline. Yes. Okay.
The way you explain bittul, it sounds like
I hate the word nullification.
It sounds like unification.
Bittul, you could describe it as unification.
Because if you're like
Yeah.
combining.
Bittul is not you becoming nothing. Bittul is you removing your separation from the all.
So why has bittul been called, like, been translated as
Bittul is one of the most dangerous words because it can be used to shatter people's self-esteem. It can be weaponized. And it's almost as if it were better just to retire the word. But it's such an important, it's the whole point of everything, so we can't let them ruin it. We have to reclaim the word bittul as the beautiful concept that it is. Bittul isn't to exacerbate anyone's trauma. Bittul is the ultimate healing from all traumas. Bittul is soothing, not disruptive and hurtful. Yeah,
Question.
yeah.
When I'm
That was the end of chapter 3, by the way.
when I'm hearing this, that we become subsumed, we're in the lowest level physical, so we're becoming subsumed in the highest or in soul.
So, yeah, where are you heading with this?
I'm going back to Monday with the light.
But
and
people
the
don't know that
light.
stuff.
What?
People don't know Monday. I said already, people don't know
I
Monday.
know, but we have to go there.
We will go there, but let me retranslate your question. Let me repackage your question.
Yeah.
Basically, you're saying, I think where the Rebbe's heading here is saying, not only is this a greater degree of bittul, but that greater degree of bittul is taking place on an even lower plane, meaning it's happening physically
Then the angel.
It's happening.
than the angels, which are obviously not physical, they're
But
non-physical.
then when you take this ray, forgive me, I need to, when you take this ray back to the
She
sun,
won't
all
stop
you
referring
have
to the
is
Monday
sun.
class.
What?
I'm just letting everyone know that you're doing what I said expressly not to do, and you're doing it anyway. Okay,
It's what
you're
I
defying
do,
me.
it's what I
Okay,
do.
okay, go ahead, go ahead.
When you take this ray back to the sun, you don't have ray, you have
Right.
sun.
Yeah,
So us
sun
and our
and ray
physical,
doesn't
but
really
we bring this connection
Yeah.
to the Or Ein Sof,
yeah,
which is what we are. So we are Or Ein Sof.
yeah,
That's the whole
Okay.
point.
yeah,
So
That's
we're
what
the-
got upon and off.
yeah,
But we're not a chelek. No, we're not a chelek. We are.
yeah. Higher than Chalik, yeah.
Yeah, we are the Or Ein Sof.
Yeah, that's right.
So what do we do with that?
So what do we do with that? That's a great question. You're like, this is so lovely. We're one with the essence. What do you? But what we are? Is that's true? What do we do with that? That's precisely the point. That was true before you learned this mimer, and it would continue being true if you had never learned this mimer.
Now we know.
But by learning the mimer and learning this truth, and how this truth not only exists in an abstract way, but how Matan Torah turned it into something that actually exists on the physical plane, we can identify it and we can connect to it and be conscious of it in our day-to-day lives. So if you really want to understand, the point here is not to teach you about this lofty concept. The point is to teach you how that lofty concept was made accessible in the physical body in your day-to-day life.
What is this concept that's now accessible?
Well, it's a real paradox. The concept that's accessible is that you are one with the essence in your state of physical separation as a distinct entity in a body, which seems to be a complete contradiction because being one with the essence would preclude being a distinct entity. So,
Right, or we
Well,
Yeah.
that's the question we left off with on Monday that we're still.
and that's really the question that runs through most of Chassidus. So
Isn't
it's a
the whole
recurring.
point of this, it's the learning of this is refinement.
It is refining, yeah, and refining what?
Our sensitivity.
Your
to this.
mitos, your.
But I'm saying the spiritual or the physical.
Both. One and the same.
You're not refining the spiritual, you're refining the physical.
fine, because the spiritual is.
The spiritual's fine. What we're trying to do is align the physical with the spiritual. And the possibility for that was given at Matan Torah.
So what did all the souls look like before Matan Torah?
The souls always looked the same before Matan Torah and after. The souls were always,
Had the same access.
yeah, the souls, yeah. What the novelty is, now we're talking about something that can happen in the finite realm of time-space.
So anything Avram Avinu did wasn't perfecting the world.
Wasn't perfecting the world. The Rebbe once said, a very interesting way of describing it. The Rebbe said, Al Pi Kabbalah, when Yankov Avinu peeled the stripes on the sticks, that he was putting on tefillin, like the tefillin straps, so like the stripes on the arm. So it was, Kabbalah says he was mamshich the hamshachas that tefillin are mamshich, meaning these divine elicitations that happen when you put on tefillin. He did it with the sticks. The Rebbe said, if you would find those sticks, you could put them in a museum, but they wouldn't be holy.
They'd just be physical.
They'd just be regular physical, like the table.
Even though they were used to draw.
Even though they were
Divine
used to,
energy.
right, because after they were used to do that, that was it. It just,
Once that moment passed, it's gone.
once the moment passed, there was no change in the physical object. In contrast, the tefillin of any Jew today, it's a holy object. And there are halachas, how you have to give respect to a holy object, meaning the physical object has changed. That concept didn't exist previously. So what's kind of cool here is we're talking about now not just that the idea of holy objects didn't exist before, but I guess what we're talking about is our bodies. Our own bodies didn't have the ability to become holy before. So to have a holiness that's accessible through the neshama, what's the chiddush in that? The point is a holiness that's accessible through the body.
Isn't that the beginning of being mitzaki in the chait of Adam and Chava?
Well, everything goes back to that, yeah.
It's
Okay.
accessible or it is?
Well,
It sounds like it is.
it is in potential, but you have to do something.
Oh, well, we didn't say that.
But it's no, we just finished chapter 3.
We just said we are the RA so.
Yeah.
So we don't have to do anything to become that. We are it.
Well,
Now the question is, what do we do with that? That's
right.
Do stuff to get all the junk out of the way.
Okay.
They,
You understand that we're in the middle of the Maamar, right?
okay.
We're-
We have a question. Someone wants to know what bittul is.
What?
Someone wants to know what does bittul mean.
a definition.
Could you get a new definition?
A new definition of bittul? A few years ago, I started defining bittul, and I did not make this up, although it was attributed to me, but then I told people I didn't make it up, I repurposed it, I repackaged it. I heard somebody saying this as a definition of humility, and then I realized actually this is a great definition for bittul. At least in avodah, what the avodah of bittul is. That bittul is not thinking less of yourself. Bittul is thinking of yourself less. Meaning, it doesn't mean that you have a low opinion of yourself. That's low self-esteem, which is another form of self-obsession, ironically. Bittul means the freedom to transcend yourself, to not be self-oriented, so that you can be greater than yourself.
Sounds like removing your ego.
Removing the ego. Yeah.
Effacing would be a good way.
But not in any,
That's
like,
a negative connotation.
there's no negativity here. It's release. It's
Surrender.
it's a very positive thing. Okay. That was the end of chapter 3. Mitzvah Hashem will continue next week. Okay.